or organization. The views reflected on these podcast episodes are my own. Be aware I am not a medical doctor, travel agent, or any other kind of expert. But I hope you still enjoy. Hey friends, welcome to the Gluten-Free Advocate, a Substack and podcast that helps me process my health journey and my determination to pretend that those health conditions don't exist at all. If you're looking for tips, tricks, and learnings for traveling the world with celiac disease and type 1.5 diabetes, you have come to the right place. Now, let's get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Gluten-Free Advocate. It is episode 2 of season 2. That is super exciting. And I'm going to tell you all a little something. I already recorded this episode, and it was fantastic. It was a lot of fun. And unfortunately, my camera turned off, so I have to record this again. Woohoo. Oy vey. So, welcome to episode 2. I hope episode 1 was a great recap. This one is going to be a little bit of a recap as well, because we're going to talk about celiac cruises and what's coming up for this year for all my travel plans. And most of my travel plans are the celiac cruises. So I'm really excited to talk to you about that organization and what they do. And I'm not going to go into super duper detail because my goal is to be able to have some of the folks from celiac cruises on the podcast and have them talk through their process and what they do. But I'm just going to talk about it from a perspective of attending the cruises, which I think is going to be really amazing and a lot of fun. So here goes nothing. So if you listen to season 1 of the podcast, I talked about 2 of the 3 cruises that I had been on with Celiac Cruise. And basically they came to my attention a couple of years ago. This was probably around COVID time. We were just coming out of it, just feeling like we could go out into the world again. And I got an email from the Celiac Disease Foundation. And they were advertising this 100% gluten-free cruise that was going on the Danube, and it was going to be Oktoberfest themed, that we were going to be in Germany and Hungary for one of the weeks of October and be able to have gluten-free beer and gluten-free pretzels and all that fun stuff. And so I went to my sister and I was like, hey, I never thought that we'd ever be able to go on a cruise and feel totally safe the entire time. So I just had thought I would never get to experience a cruise ever in my life. And I said, when are we ever going to experience Oktoberfest in this way in Germany? Why don't we go? And so we went. And it was a river cruise with Celiac Cruise, so they're a bit more expensive. And the demographic of those that attend those river cruises tend to skew older, but it was so much fun. It was the experience of a lifetime. And it really, I had to adjust my way of thinking and my approach in the world, because I'm used to my trips. I plan to the T. I figure out where I'm eating and I map everything down to the minute. And that does not mean that there's not room for magic or flexibility, but I give myself these goalposts of what I do on each trip, because if I don't, then I could go a day or 2 without eating on accident if I'm not prepared enough ahead of time. And a lot of celiacs are like that, where they're very type A, they're very anxious about traveling, and it was a wild experience of going on a cruise where I wasn't going to know what I was going to do on my vacation the next day until the night before. And that was a big adjustment. And I remember speaking to Connie, one of the women that run Celiac Cruises. I was on the phone with her for about an hour. It was like 7 o'clock at night. And I'm sure if she comes on the podcast, will want to tell that story. And I'm curious to hear it from her perspective, because I'm sure she's like, yeah, you were a monster. But she was totally professional, totally sweet and amazing. And my sister and I decided to go, and we had an absolute blast. And there are people on that cruise that I still talk to this day. Bonds that are there for a lifetime. Any one of those people need me, I'm there for them. And then the next cruise I went on, like I said, the river cruises are quite an expense, so I had to build up my bank account for a little bit, and then I went on an ocean cruise. And I was really anti-ocean cruises, but I chose that cruise because at the time I thought I would be still living in Italy. And I was like, oh, it's just a quick train ride, and then I'm on vacation for a week, and then I just go back on the train home, and it won't be a huge expense. And then that blew up in my face. But it was an Italy and Greece trip, and it was incredible. I got to go with my aunt, and we had a great time. I do think my sister would have enjoyed the ocean cruise a little bit more, and my aunt would have enjoyed the river cruise a little bit more. But listen, everything happens for a reason, and we had a really great time. And it was Italy and Greece in the summer, and I'm not a beach person. I'm more of a city gal, but so the Greece ports were not exactly my cup of tea, but I enjoyed it. So for all of that, when the 2026 cruises came out, in my brain I was like, okay, every other year I'll do a cruise with the celiac cruise, and that'll be my vacation every other year. And then the 2026 cruises came out, and Australia and New Zealand was on their list of cruises. They do different cruises every year. The one that has been consistent every year so far has been Alaska, and those sell out every year. But it's really exciting that you get different opportunities. Some of them are similar enough. Like this year, there's going to be 2 cruises where I've kind of done it, a piece of each of them, but so there's similarities that carry over through the years, but they had Australia and New Zealand as an option this year. And I wrote to Maureen, who is the woman that is the CEO and founder. Celiac Cruise exists because of Maureen and her son, and I'm not going to tell their story. That's something for them to share, but I spoke to her and said, hey, do you think Celiac Cruises, like the Australia one, do you think it's going to happen again next year? Or is this like an every 5-year thing that we're going to do? And she said, it's probably going to be a once every 5-year thing. So she's like, it depends on how this one sells, but that might be where the direction it's heading in. And I was like, you know what, then let's take the plunge and let's go for both. And I freelance, so it was easy to justify. Like, I didn't have to worry about work and PTO and all that stuff. And while I was talking to Maureen, she convinced me to go on a cruise to the Bahamas. So I went on the cruise to the Bahamas this past year. And I helped out as much as I could as like a thank you to those in the celiac cruise, and did whatever, work they asked me to do. And it was such an enjoyable experience. They were like, hey, think you should really consider coming on more than just Australia and New Zealand. So now I'm going on 6. And I'm so excited and nerding out and all the things. I just, every cruise with Spain and, with Italy and Greece, that ocean cruise, the Bahamas, the river cruise, every single time I walk away feeling like I learned something new about myself. And I think that when you get diagnosed with celiac at a very particular age, I was 15, that there were things I was still supposed to be learning about myself, that I still was trying to figure out and learn what kind of person I was and what I liked doing and didn't like doing. And I kind of got cut off at the knees at a really strange time in my life where I was already socially awkward, and it kind of just made me more of a recluse getting diagnosed with celiac disease, because then it was like I felt like a nuisance, like a burden, and social things were hard enough for me, and the celiac disease just added another layer. And the weird looks I would get from family members at a birthday party where everybody refused to have a piece of my birthday cake because it was gluten-free, and all this other stuff, and just things that made me feel really bad. And so I'm an introvert, so I recharge by being alone, but I always felt like, oh, well, I just don't like being around people. And there's still a part of that that's true, but I recharge by being alone, but when I'm on a celiac cruise, I become a huge extrovert. And I think that's because when you're on a celiac cruise, so much of my brain power when I'm away, or even in my day-to-day life, just going out to dinner, so much of my brain space is spent thinking about what am I putting into my body. And okay, what time is it that I'm eating this? Because I know in 2 hours will be when I'll have a reaction. So, all right, it's this time. Where will I be in 2 hours? How quickly do I need to make sure I get home or someplace safe in case something bad happens? And it goes on and on and on, and it's nonstop. It's crazy the amount of times it comes up in your life where you've got to be thinking about what you're doing. And on a celiac cruise, I don't have to think about any of that at all. And it opens my mind up. Like I have much more room for thoughts and thinking. And it's crazy. So I feel like I figure out a new piece of myself and get a piece of myself that was lost with my celiac disease diagnosis by going on a celiac cruise. And I highly recommend that anybody with celiac disease does it at least once in their life and have that experience of, wow, a whole week of not having to think about what I'm eating. Lovely. So exciting. And granted, I do have to think about it a little bit in terms of the type 1 diabetes, but really it's not the same as what you have to think about with celiac disease. So let's start from the beginning. Why am I interested in going to Australia and New Zealand? Well, or what am I excited about for those trips? And I'm really excited about for Australia, the going to Sydney and doing the harbour and the opera house. It's really all I've ever really thought about going to Australia, where I'm like, oh, I just hope I see the opera house one day. And so I'm really excited about my tour, the tours that I'm doing the day before I actually get on the boat. And then there's so many things that I'm going to be doing once I'm on that ship, and I can't wait to share with you guys. And then in New Zealand, I'll be doing a tour of Lord of the Rings, those movies, and where they shot, like you get to visit the different filming locations. And I have a tendency that I like to do things. So I go through a trip, and when I'm planning a trip out and what excursions I'm going to do and what tours I'm going to do and what places I'm going to visit, I always consider, well, what will be really fun to come back and tell friends and family about? What's something that I know that they would be interested in? And my best friend, my sister really, she's my honorary sister. Her name is Kira. She is obsessed with Lord of the Rings. And so although I have just seen the movies for the first time, and I'm like, oh boy, I have to try and watch them again, because it was hard for me to hold my focus. It's just not my genre, not my series, and that's okay. But I got enough of what I needed to appreciate the tour. But I know it will light up her world, and I really wanted her to come with me on this cruise, and we just couldn't work it out this time. Then I'm going to be doing the Caribbean. And my friend Gabby, who you may know as No Gluten Gabby, I met her on a Bahamas cruise. I am so excited she's going to be on that one with me. And I think we have some fun things that we're going to cook up for you guys. So, or for anybody, that wanting to share in the experience with us on our social media pages. So make sure to follow No Gluten Gabby and the Gluten Free Advocate to keep up to date on those. I do need recommendations for Miami, though. I have no idea what to do in Miami. So that's the day before we get on the ship will be spent in Miami. And I've never been, also never thought I would go. So being that I'm there, I want to take advantage of that. So please, if you have any insights on things to do in Miami that I should check out or places to eat, please share that. And then I'm going to do with my brother to celebrate his 30th birthday. I'm going to do a cruise to Bermuda, and it's out of New Jersey. We're going to do for 2 days in Bermuda and then come back at the same port, which in talking with the ladies at the celiac cruise, my brother is autistic. So we felt like that was a good entry point for him to do his first cruise. So I'm so excited. It's our first time ever doing anything without the rest of our family, and it's just being the two of us. And I'm going to also have him on the podcast and talk about it. So I'm really excited to share his story with you guys. And my brother is just the best. He's incredible. And I think you guys will love to hear his stories and his thoughts and opinions on things. And then I'm also doing the Croatia-Greece cruise. And I did part of the itinerary already with Greece, but they have a new stop in Athens that wasn't provided before. And that's what I'm really excited about with that. And I have never been to Croatia. That was on my list of where I wanted to go and do like a little weekend getaway for myself when I was living in Europe, and just never got to it. And I'm really excited to get to have that opportunity now. And along the same lines, I've always wanted to go to Poland, but there's a particular activity to do in Poland that I was waiting for my youngest sister. She's 12 years younger than I, and there's this trip that we've been planning since she was 5 years old, where we wanted to go. I did my senior year of high school. I did a performance of The Diary of Anne Frank where I played Anne Frank, and she watched that DVD of that performance over and over and over again. And she fell in love with Anne Frank and her story and her resilience and all of those things. And so we always planned, we were like, you know what, maybe we'll go to Poland and go to Auschwitz, and then we'll go to Amsterdam and do the Anne Frank house. And so we're going to do those things. The one place where we're diverging is we always wanted to go to Paris together because we both took French in school. But she already has been to Paris and SFI, so we were like, we don't need to do that again. So instead, we're going to Barcelona, which is where my last celiac cruise of the year will be taking off from. And I wanted to do Spain and Italy because for Barcelona, honestly, it's a gluten-free heaven in Barcelona. And I highly recommend, if you want to travel and if you're a celiac and want to do it for the first time, they have a gluten-free food tour in Barcelona, and it's incredible. You should listen to my episode from the first season about that. And it's just so many 100% gluten-free restaurants. It's so incredible. And the one city I didn't mention in that week between those last two cruises that I mentioned, before I meet up with my sister in Krakow, Poland, I'm going to Warsaw by myself. So I'm really excited. It's going to be an incredible adventure and a jam-packed first 6-7 months of the year, but I'm really excited. And again, freelancing allows me that opportunity to be able to take long stretches of time off from work, or I can work from anywhere. That allows me to be able to do this. And I will, like I said, talk about my work trips as well. And we're going to delve into that a little bit and the differences of what it means to prepare for a work trip versus a personal trip. And although it is a personal trip, I will be working on all these cruises as well. So I'm really excited to get to share all those experiences with you. And if you have any tips or tricks in any particular type of city or location in the countries that I mentioned, please reach out on the Gluten Free Advocate, and please reach out at hieatexplorelove@gmail.com. The information is also in the show notes of this podcast episode. And yeah, so as always, thank you for joining me. Next week, we're going to be talking about preparing for a lengthy flight and preparing for a lengthy trip when you have type 1 diabetes and celiac disease. It makes for a really fun combination to figure those things out. So make sure you join. And I can't wait to hear everybody's thoughts and opinions about all the trips that I'm going on and take you along for the journey. I have a lot of fun content that I'm going to try and create and share with you guys. So thank you so much for joining. And until next time. Thank you for joining me this week for an episode of the Gluten Free Advocate. For more information on what's discussed on the podcast, check out the episode description and/or my Substack, The Gluten Free Advocate. If you have any questions or fun stories to share, feel free to reach out at hieatexplorelove@gmail.com. Till next time. This episode is produced by Leigh Francis Productions.